Pirates faced storms and cannon fire, but nothing terrified them more than deadly cold. One mistake with freezing temperatures killed faster than any sword fight. Their survival techniques were so ingenious they'd amaze modern experts. But which secret trick turned simple socks into liquid gold? Pirates faced storms, cannon fire, and angry captains. But few things scared them more than the freezing cold. Out on the open sea, staying warm wasn't just nice to have. It meant staying alive. Without the right tricks, one cold night could kill you faster than any sword fight, and pirates knew exactly how to fight back. Their first way to stay safe wasn't treasure or weapons. It was the clothes they wore. Pirates didn't just put on any old rags they could find. They created clothing systems that would amaze even today's outdoor experts. First came thin cotton shirts that pulled sweat away from their skin. Next, wool layers trapped the heat their bodies made. Finally, outer layers of leather or oiled cloth kept wind and water away from them. A pirate might look big and clunky walking around the deck in all these clothes, but they'd live to steal treasure another day. Wet clothes could kill faster than any enemy ship. When big waves crashed over the sides and soaked a pirate to the bone, they had special tricks to stay alive. Wool became their miracle cloth. Even when totally wet, wool still keeps about 60% of its warming power. Pirates would quickly squeeze out wet clothes rather than taking them off completely. They knew that even damp wool was better than nothing at all. Ships often had makeshift clotheslines hung below deck where clothes could dry without getting blown away by the wind. A cold head makes for a dead pirate wasn't just something people said. It was survival wisdom. While we think of pirates wearing flashy bandanas, their hat choices were really about staying alive. Three-cornered hats weren't just for looks. Their wide brims sent rain away from faces and necks. Under these hats, pirates often wore tight-fitting caps or bandanas that covered their ears. Since people lose up to 25% of their body heat through their heads, this simple trick kept many pirates alive through bitter cold nights on watch. The simple sock became as valuable as gold when temperatures dropped. Pirates saved up extra pairs and came up with clever ways to make them better. Some stuffed their shoes with straw or rags for extra warmth. Others wore several pairs layered together. One story from a captured pirate mentioned that socks were so valuable they were specifically listed in ship rules about how stolen goods should be shared. When a Spanish merchant ship was captured off the coast of Cuba in 1718, the first things stolen weren't jewelry or coins. They were the dry wool socks found in the captain's room. Fingers and hands needed special care too. Frostbitten fingers couldn't tie knots or hold weapons. That was deadly dangerous in their risky job. Pirates made rough mittens from scraps of leather and wool, often leaving the pointer finger free for those times when they needed to defend the ship. Some crew members swore by coating their hands in animal fat or whale oil before putting on gloves. This created an extra barrier against the biting cold. When pirates captured military ships, the coats and boots on board weren't just prizes, they were survival gear. Navy and Army uniforms were made of better wool and leather than most pirates could get anywhere else. The thick wool coats of British Royal Navy officers were especially wanted. Not just for their warmth, but because they kept water out too. Pirates didn't care about badges or decorations. They cared about what worked when freezing winds blew. A pirate might sail wearing pieces from 3 different navies on his stolen clothing. It looked silly, but it kept him nice and warm. Sometimes even the best clothes weren't enough. On really cold nights, pirates forgot about personal space. They huddled together in groups, sharing body heat in the most protected parts of the ship. Some captains allowed the use of precious blankets and furs that would normally be saved for trading. In truly desperate times, cannonballs would be heated in the kitchen fire, wrapped in rags and placed in sleeping areas to give off warmth through the night, just far enough away to prevent burns. These clothing tricks weren't just about being comfortable. They were about surviving and staying strong enough to fight. A pirate crew suffering from the cold couldn't defend against attackers or handle a ship through stormy seas. The most successful pirate captains understood that keeping their crew warm was just as important as keeping them fed. But staying warm wasn't just about what pirates wore. As the biting cold continued to challenge them, they turned to what they put in their bodies as another way to stay warm. Food wasn't just about stopping hunger. It was fuel that kept their inner fire burning when ice and winds howled across the deck. Pirates learned through trial and error that certain foods made more body heat than others. Spicy ingredients became winter treasures on pirate ships. Hot peppers brought back from Caribbean raids weren't just for flavor. They caused a real physical warming response. The capsaicin in hot peppers makes the body increase blood flow and raise its temperature for a while. One ship's log from 1706 noted that the cook would carefully ration pepper supplies during winter trips, saving the hottest batches for the coldest nights. Salted meats, already a main food for sea travel because they lasted longer, served double duty in the fight against freezing temperatures. The high protein content required more energy to digest, making heat in the process. Pirates sailing in northern waters would eat extra portions of salt beef and pork when temperatures dropped. Ship biscuits, those rock-hard basics of sea meals, were packed with carbohydrates that provided slow-burning energy throughout long, cold watches. The relationship between rum and warmth stands as one of the biggest pirate myths. While a sip of rum created an immediate feeling of warmth as it burned down the throat, this feeling was dangerously fake. Alcohol actually lowers core body temperature by widening blood vessels near the skin, letting precious heat escape faster. Smart pirate captains knew this truth and would often water down the rum portions during the coldest trips. Many a pirate felt nice and toasty after a flask of rum, only to be found frozen stiff the next morning, the last party trick they'd ever perform. Despite the rum myth, pirates did use hot drinks effectively. They brewed rough copies of tea using whatever herbs and plants they could find or trade for. These hot drinks, often sweetened with stolen honey or molasses, provided real warmth that lasted. Unlike modern sailors with their insulated cups, pirates would hold rough wooden cups in cold, numb hands, soaking up heat through their palms as they sipped the steaming liquid. Making hot meals presented a unique challenge on wooden ships where open flames could spell disaster. Pirates used small enclosed braziers, metal containers with air holes that allowed controlled fires for cooking. These braziers would be carefully watched, usually placed on sand or stone in the kitchen to prevent setting the ship on fire. Ships that couldn't risk any flame at all relied on ports to cook multiple days' worth of stew or soup that could be reheated quickly or even eaten cold in the days that followed. When flames weren't an option, pirates developed workarounds that would impress modern camp chefs. They'd wrap food in cloth and tuck it inside their clothes, using body heat to warm it to something slightly better than ice-cold hardtack. Perhaps the original meal prep technique, if somewhat less Instagram-worthy than today's versions. Another trick involved warming metal spoons near whatever heat sources were available before dipping them into cold food, creating brief pockets of warmth in an otherwise freezing meal. Sharing became essential when warmth was at stake. The shared pot wasn't just about fair sharing. It was a survival strategy. Hot soups and stews stayed warmer longer in a single large container than in individual portions. During the harshest conditions, pirates would gather around the pot, each taking turns dipping their utensils directly into the shared meal. This practice, frowned upon during warmer months due to disease spread, became acceptable when survival trumped cleanliness. Some pirate ships developed smart meal timing strategies for cold weather. The largest, hottest meal would be served before night watches began, providing maximum internal heat during the coldest hours. Those standing watch might receive hot bricks wrapped in cloth alongside smaller food portions every few hours. Not just food, but portable warmth to help them survive until dawn. Food shortage often troubled pirate crews, but during winter trips, captains would sometimes allow extra food portions. They knew that hungry sailors froze faster, and a living crew, even one with slightly less stored food, was better than a full pantry and frozen corpses. Records from captured pirate ships show that winter food portions could be up to 20% larger than summer portions. An investment in survival rather than kindness. While food and drink helped pirates make internal heat, sometimes even the fullest belly couldn't fight the freezing temperatures that surrounded them. For those moments, pirates turned to more direct sources of warmth. Pirates faced a big problem: how to create warmth on a wooden ship without burning it down to the waterline. This challenge required cleverness that went beyond simply lighting a bonfire on deck. The wooden structure of sailing ships created a deadly puzzle. Fire provided life-saving warmth, but threatened instant destruction if it got loose. A single stray spark could light tarred ropes, wooden planks, or canvas sails, turning a ship into a floating fire within minutes. Records from the early 1700s show that about 1 in 20 ships lost at sea went down not from storms or enemy action, but from accidental fires, often started by desperate attempts to stay warm. As one pirate saying went, "Fire keeps you warm once, but drowning keeps you cold forever." To manage this risk, pirates developed special containers for controlled fires. Enclosed braziers became prized possessions on cold weather trips. These metal containers, often made from reused ship parts or stolen goods, had tight-fitting lids and air holes that let heat escape while keeping sparks inside. More than one foolish cabin boy earned a beating after leaving a brazier lid askew, a mistake that could have earned the entire crew a one-way swim in freezing waters. Ship lanterns served double duty during cold spells. Beyond providing light, the heat made by oil lamps and candle lanterns became precious. Pirates would gather around navigation lanterns during night watches, using the modest heat to warm their hands. Some creative souls developed rotating schedules where crew members would take turns, soon standing near the lantern, each warming different parts of their bodies before switching positions. One pirate journal mentions a lantern dance, where sailors would shuffle in circles around the warmest lamp, leading to the only known instance where a ship's navigator threatened mutiny over excessive lamp-based choreography. Metal objects became unexpected friends in the battle against freezing temperatures. Cannonballs, normally tools of destruction, transformed into heat storage during bitter nights. The kitchen fire would be used to heat these iron balls, which were then wrapped in scrap cloth and spread throughout sleeping areas. A single heated cannonball could give off warmth for hours, making the difference between sleep and shivering. Ship carpenters might heat their tools during the day, tucking warm hammers and mallets into their bedding at night to create pockets of heated air. The practice of sleeping in groups wasn't just a space-saving measure on crowded ships. Pirates practiced what modern survival experts call the huddle, a defensive formation against cold that relies on shared body heat. During Arctic passages, up to 6 men might sleep pressed together, rotating positions throughout the night so that no single person remained exposed to the cold edge of the formation. Studies of body heat transfer suggest this practice could raise the effective temperature experienced by the group by as much as 15 degrees. Stolen goods often found unexpected uses in pirate warming strategies. Fancy furs and blankets meant for wealthy merchants became shared warming resources. Rugs and tapestries were reused as insulation hung against the wooden walls of the ship to create air pockets that trapped heat. One account describes a pirate captain who ordered a stolen silk merchant's entire inventory used as insulation in the crew quarters, both keeping his men warm and removing evidence of the theft. The very structure of the ship decided where warmth could be found. Ships made their own heat patterns, with some areas naturally warmer than others. The kitchen, with its cooking fires, remained the heart of warmth. Areas near the center of the ship below the waterline kept more stable temperatures than exposed upper decks. Pirates learned to map these warm zones and would rotate sleeping positions based on who had endured the coldest watches or performed the most physically demanding tasks. Ship design itself evolved partly in response to cold weather challenges. Pirates operating in northern waters preferred ships with more enclosed spaces. They would modify captured ships, adding canvas partitions and makeshift walls to create smaller air pockets that held heat more effectively. The most wanted ships had small, well-insulated captain's quarters, which explained why mutinies mysteriously increased by 30% during winter months. Nothing motivated democratic rearrangement of sleeping quarters quite like frostbite. Water, normally the enemy of warmth, could sometimes serve as a friend. The temperature of the sea itself rarely drops below freezing, keeping a constant temperature that can feel warm, compared to bitter winds. Some desperate pirates would use this principle by rigging tarps to catch and channel small amounts of seawater into containers within the ship's interior. This created thermal mass that, while damp, released steady heat as it gradually cooled to air temperature. These heating solutions required constant watching and adjustment. Unlike modern heating systems with their thermostats and automatic controls, pirate warmth depended on human attention. Watches would include checking braziers, rotating heating objects, and monitoring for dangerous situations. The role of fire watcher became critical, often assigned to the newest crew member who learned quickly that falling asleep on this duty could mean death for everyone aboard. While these heat sources provided critical protection against the deadly cold, they represented only part of a pirate's winter survival strategy. The most successful crews combined these warming methods with other approaches that made life possible even in the harshest conditions. Cold has a way of seeping into bones, slowly draining energy until even the strongest sailor becomes a shivering, useless lump. Pirates discovered what modern science confirms: a moving body is a warm body. Where naval ships might allow idle sailors during peaceful passages, pirate ships in cold waters developed a culture that kept everyone in motion. The normal jobs on a ship gave pirates many chances to warm up. Hoisting sails required tremendous upper body strength, making heat that could last for hours afterward. During particularly cold conditions, captains would order unnecessary sail changes, not for tactical advantage, but simply to keep the crew warm through physical labor. One pirate logbook mentions a captain who ordered the mainsail raised and lowered 7 times in a single morning, claiming he couldn't make up his mind about the weather when really he was preventing his crew from freezing solid. Deck scrubbing, normally a punishment or basic maintenance task, gained new purpose during winter trips. The constant bending, scrubbing, and moving across the deck got blood flowing to fingers, toes, and ears, body parts that freeze first. Some pirate ships developed rotation systems where each crew member spent at least 1 hour per day on hands and knees scrubbing, regardless of the deck's cleanliness. The unexpected benefit: pirate ships operating in northern waters often had the cleanest decks in the Atlantic. The ropes and lines used to control the sails became a surprising friend in the fight against cold. Climbing the web of ropes that controlled sails made pirates use their whole body, creating lots of body heat. Records show that lookout duties in the crow's nest, typically the coldest, most exposed position on the ship, were limited to 15-minute shifts in Arctic conditions. The climb up and down actually produced more warmth than the time spent watching for ships or land. Combat training served double purposes in freezing conditions. Sword practice, typically a daily routine on any fighting ship, got more intense during cold spells. Sparring with wooden practice swords or having knife-throwing competitions kept blood pumping while maintaining essential skills. Winter pirate attacks were often preceded by unusually intensive training sessions, partially to prepare for battle, but equally to ensure the attacking crew was thoroughly warmed up before the fight began. Music and dance turned out to be powerful tools against the cold. Sea shanties weren't just for coordinating work. They provided rhythm for stomping dances that made heat from the feet up. The hornpipe hustle became famous on pirate ships, with men jumping and spinning until sweat poured despite freezing temperatures. There's a reason the most elaborate pirate dances started in northern waters rather than the Caribbean. And it wasn't because they had better musical taste. The small spaces below decks became makeshift workout spots during the worst weather. Pirates developed compact workouts that could be performed in cramped quarters. Push-ups against walls, squatting contests, and arm wrestling tournaments kept blood flowing when going above deck meant risking frostbite. One captured pirate's journal described daily competitions where the winner earned extra rum portions, creating fierce competition that coincidentally kept everyone warm. Rowing small boats between ships or to shore, normally considered exhausting labor, became a wanted assignment in cold weather. The full-body motion of rowing generates heat quickly, warming even the most chilled pirate within minutes. Smart captains would rotate rowing duties among the coldest crew members, using the activity as targeted warm therapy rather than punishment. Fighting, for all its dangers, had one good side effect. Nobody felt cold during a battle. The mix of excitement, hard work, and focus made pirates forget about the cold for a while. Pirates noted that even brief fights left participants sweating despite freezing temperatures. Some captains timed their attacks not based on tactical advantage, but on when their crew most needed warming up. Sleep itself became an active affair. Pirates would perform vigorous exercises immediately before climbing into hammocks or bunks, making heat that helped them fall asleep before the cold could take hold. Those on night watch developed routines of silent exercises performed every quarter hour. Squats, arm swings, and silent marching in place kept sentries both alert and warm through the coldest hours. While always moving around helped pirates stay alive at sea, they couldn't keep active all the time. Eventually, they needed to find a break from the never-ending cold by looking for warmer places. Smart pirates knew that sometimes the best way to deal with cold seas was to avoid them completely. Unlike Navy ships that had to follow orders and patrol set routes, pirate crews could choose where and when they sailed. This freedom became their secret weapon against winter's deadly grip. Most pirate crews followed seasonal routes that took them to warmer waters during the coldest months. Ships operating in the North Atlantic would drift south as autumn approached, timing their movements to stay ahead of the worst weather. Written records show that pirate attacks in the Caribbean jumped by 60% during December through February. Not because pirates suddenly became more violent, but because they were simply following the warmth. During winter, the waters near Jamaica and the Bahamas became so crowded with pirate ships that locals joked you could walk from one island to another by hopping across pirate decks. This might be why Caribbean islands developed their spicy food traditions. Not to preserve the meat as many think, but to keep all those winter pirates from getting too comfortable and staying year-round. Smart timing wasn't just about comfort, it saved lives. Records from captured pirate ships show that crews who stayed in northern waters year-round lost about 20% of their men to cold-related problems each winter. Those who followed the sun kept almost their full crew strength, losing men only to fights and rum-related accidents. When pirates couldn't escape the cold waters completely, they became masters at finding the warmest ports. Unlike Navy ships that might have to stay at sea for months, pirate ships rarely went more than 2 weeks without touching land during winter. They mapped and shared knowledge about sheltered harbors, warm coves, and friendly ports where they could briefly escape the biting sea winds. Taverns played a surprisingly important role in pirate winter survival. These weren't just places to drink and gamble. They were winter rescue stations. A good tavern offered hours of warmth, hot food, and dry shelter. Pirates would save special coins just for tavern stops during winter trips, knowing that a night by a roaring fire could mean the difference between life and death. When forced to make land away from ports, pirates became skilled at creating temporary camps. They built windbreaks from ship sails stretched between trees, placing them to catch the most sun while blocking the prevailing winds. Stolen goods often found new uses in these land camps. Fine furniture from captured merchant ships might end up smashed and burning in a pirate campfire. Expensive rugs became tent floors that kept the ground's chill away. Nothing says fearsome pirate quite like a bearded man in a pink silk dressing gown. But it beats freezing to death with your dignity intact. Pirates rarely stayed in one place for long, but some crews created semi-permanent winter shelters on remote islands. These simple huts, often dug partially into hillsides for extra protection, could be used year after year as crews followed their seasonal routes. What truly set successful pirate crews apart wasn't just their survival gear or warming tricks. It was their flexibility. They adapted to whatever conditions they faced, changing their entire lifestyle based on the weather. This adaptability became a pirate's greatest strength. These 5 approaches, clever clothing, strategic eating, innovative heat sources, constant movement, and smart seasonal planning, formed the complete pirate strategy for cold weather survival. Together, they demonstrate that pirates weren't just lucky or tough. They were creative problem solvers who developed an entire science of staying warm when the seas turned cold and deadly.